This is Philadelphia Eagles Now. We're off and running. Coming up here on the show, big matchup coming up on Sunday between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys, the Fox game of the week. It's going to be an electric environment at AT&T Stadium. Here are my keys to the game. Top matchups to watch. What the Eagles must do to win this ball game to move to 9-2, and I'll give you my prediction as I always do. Let's first take a look at how the Cowboys stack up on both sides of the football here. On offense, they have been one of the most productive units in football, with head coach Brian Schottenheimer running the offense and calling the plays. That's led to Dak Prescott having a really good year. Their running game has been pretty good. Their offensive line, they always invest there. C.D. Lamb, George Pickens, really good 1-2 punch at wide receiver. Jake Ferguson, a really good tight end. So they're second in points per game, third in yards per game, fifth in yards per play, seventh on third downs, 13th inside the red area. It is a different story on defense, where all year they have struggled. Although I think they're going to get better toward the back half of the year with Quinnen Williams anchoring that defensive line at defensive tackle after that deadline trade. But they are 31st in points per game, 30th in yards per game, 29th in yards per play, 32nd on third downs, 29th in the red zone. If the Eagles offense has an opportunity to get it going, even though this is a road game, it has to be this week. How the Eagles level up on both sides of the pill. 16th in points per game, 25th in yards per game, 24th in yards per play, 29th on third downs, but the number one red zone offense in the league. Their defense certainly trending in a great direction. The trade of Jalen Phillips has really transformed this pass rush, and it's made the rest of the defense a lot better. And Nakobe Dean being healthy and back in the lineup, he's been an awesome player over the last couple of weeks. Number 8 in points per game is Vic Fangio's defense, 17th in yards per game, 13th in yards per play, 20th on third downs, number 3 inside the red area. As far as my keys to the game, top matchups to watch, let's start here. This is going to be a fascinating matchup, and it's going to be one that I can't wait to watch, dissect, and break down. The Cowboys offense, one of the most explosive scoring offenses in the NFL, against this Eagles defense, it's going to be fireworks. And I think this Eagles defense right now has become the second best defense in the National Football League behind the Denver Broncos. This Cowboys offense a couple of weeks ago going on the road to play the Broncos, they were flummoxed. And I hope this isn't the spot for a letdown game for this Eagles defense, because this defense, given the struggles of the Eagles offense, kind of has to carry this team right now until or if this Eagles offense can find a groove. The Jalen Phillips trade has made the pass rush so much better. And along the defensive line, everybody else up front is felt more. It's opened up more one-on-one opportunities for the likes of Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Moro Ajomo. Jalix Hunt has really played great ball over the last month, even before the Jalen Phillips trade. Nolan Smith, still on a snap count right now, but he's a violent player. Brandon Graham, giving this team an edge in veteran leadership. And I'll tell you this about this Eagles linebacking core. It might be the best in the league. Nakobe Dean, Zach Bond, Jahad Campbell. You have the athletic freak in Campbell. You have the all-pro in Bond, who is a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. And Nakobe Dean, the last couple of weeks, is playing like an all-pro player. That's the second level, after we talked about the first level. The secondary, Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean playing like all pros. And at safety, the Eagles, they have been good enough. I think Reed Blankenship is underrated, and Drew Makuba hasn't given up some of the explosive plays over the last couple of games that he was early in the year. But this is undoubtedly going to be a test for Vic Fangio's team, and a test that I think can really prepare this Eagles defense for the playoffs, because they're going to see some legitimate high-octane offenses here. Dak Prescott completing nearly 70% of his passes this year. He's already thrown for nearly 2,600 yards, 21 tutties and 6 picks, and a quarterback rating all year long of 102.5. If the Cowboys were winning games more, Dak would be taken more seriously as an MVP candidate. C.D. Lamb, one of the top wide receivers in football. He's caught 40 of his 61 targets for 557 yards and 2 touchdowns. And the Cowboys over the last couple of years have not had a good number 2 wideout along CD. And so that's impacted their offense. This year they've had it. And George Pickens in a contract year, he is going to get a bag after the season. One thing about him, we know he's physical. He can go up and get it. He plays really hard. 58 catches for 908 yards already this year and 7 receiving touchdowns. That's not it for the Cowboys. They have one of the more underrated tight ends in football, Jake Ferguson, 6'5", 244, moves really well. He has 60 catches for 400 yards and 7 touchdowns. And then Javonte Williams. Everybody kind of thought that he was cooked, and they wrote him off when he left the Broncos to go to the Cowboys. And last year, analytically, he was one of the worst backs in football. This year, though, he's had a really bounce-back season. 161 totes for 809 yards and 8 touchdowns. So you think about all that production for the Cowboys, goes to show you this offense has been legitimate. Have they gone up against bad teams? For sure. But the production has been eye-opening. Key to the game and matchup to watch number 2. The Eagles' interior offensive line against this remade Cowboys' interior defensive line. The Cowboys made that trade at the NFL trade deadline for Quinnen Williams of the New York Jets. He is a star player. And when we see players go from a bad situation to a better situation, they elevate their game, they play a little bit better. And when you put Quinnen Williams on a defensive line alongside a guy like Kenny Clark, and you put him in an environment where the marketability is now better as a Dallas Cowboy, he's going to up his game. And in his debut against the Raiders, he was dominant against Las Vegas. Now, that Raiders offensive line stinks. They started Will Putnam at the center spot, and his lunch was getting eaten. And I covered Will in high school. Glad to see him getting a start at the NFL level after he was undrafted. But he was not a good matchup for Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark. And Quinnen Williams against the interior of that Raiders offensive line ate up a sack and a half, 7 total pressures, and a pass rush win rate of 21.4%. This is a concern for the Eagles because their interior offensive line this year has not been good, and they have not played up to their level. They've been hurt, and it just comes down to them not playing good football. And that has led to this Eagles ground game struggling to get going. And a sign of bad offensive line play, which leads to a bad and struggling running game, is yards before contact. It has gone down year over year for Saquon Barkley, 2.61 to 1.54. More than a yard less as far as yards before contact. So there has been a lack of blocking for the Eagles, execution for the Eagles, and hole creation. So many times when Saquon has gotten a carry, he's met immediately in the backfield. And this Cowboys defensive line, it's a solid one. Donovan Ezeraku, Quinnen Williams, Osa Odigizua, Kenny Clark. That's a really good defensive tackle trio right there. You have Jadeveon Clowney, and at off-ball linebacker, DeMarvion Overshown made his debut against the Raiders as well. Key to the game number 3, working off of that point, can this Eagles offense finally do something? I was confident in this unit coming out of the bye, considering what they did against Minnesota and the Giants. They have fallen absolutely flat. Now, part of it is they've gone up against pretty good defenses. And every week, because the Eagles are the defending Super Bowl champions, they're going to get the other team's best shot. They're going to get the Cowboys' best shot. Cowboys are still in the playoff hunt, trying to be a wild card team. They want to avenge that week 1 loss. And this is a huge rivalry game. But in the 2 games since the bye week, the Eagles' offense has been gross. 10 points against the Packers, 16 points against the Lions. But this Cowboys defense all year long, even though they're good up front, not good in the secondary. Total yards, they rank 27th among 32 teams. Passing defense, they are 29th. Rushing defense, 24th. Sacks, 24th. Interceptions, 23rd. My guide for this Eagles offense to get back on track. Listen closely. This is how this Eagles offense can get back on track. Kevin Patullo, you need to be better. You need to be more creative, less predictable. These route concepts are so vanilla that it hurts. And the route trees for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, they need to be more vast. And I want to see this Eagles offense be less predictable. Jalen Hurts, he really throughout his career has been a hot and cold player. He has to be on against his Cowboys team. This offensive line has to play better. And with the Cowboys acquiring Quinnen Williams against the run and against the pass, the interior of this defensive line is a good one, and the interior of this Eagles offensive line has struggled all year. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, I know that Kevin Patullo isn't doing you any favors to scheme you open, which is the job of an elite coach, and Kevin Patullo is not that. But sometimes when you're in these one-on-one matchups, you have to use your talent to get open. And oftentimes this year, AJ and Smitty have struggled to get open, more so AJ than Smitty. And this third down offense has been one of the worst in the NFL. It has to improve moving forward, and it has an opportunity to get on the right track against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday. Key to the game number 4, Vic Fangio. I think you're going to learn from your mistake in week 1. And part of this was scheme, because Brian Schottenheimer would put CeeDee Lamb in motion so that he could be matched up against Adoree Jackson. Formation-wise, personnel-wise, the Cowboys did a good job of getting CeeDee Lamb on Adoree Jackson. It can't happen this week. And we've seen an increase in Cooper DeJean this year, playing more on the outside than in the slot. Michael Carter starting to get some more snaps for this Eagles defense, and I'll give credit where credit is due. Since week 1, when Adoree Jackson was burnt to a crisp, he hasn't given up more than 40 receiving yards in a single game. But against CeeDee Lamb and against George Pickens, I know this, the Cowboys are going to try to pick on Adoree Jackson. And you look back to week 1, CeeDee Lamb had 7 catches for 110 yards. He could have gone off for 2 bills. He dropped a lot of passes. And then lastly, there's a lot of noise around this Eagles team. The offense has not been good. Some people think that the 2025 Eagles are going to be the 2023 Eagles. There was that report from Derek Gunn that a lot of people inside the Eagles organization are not happy with Jalen Hurts. It's crazy that in the city of Philadelphia, a team can be 8-2, number 1 seed in the NFC, opportunity to get home field advantage, to try to repeat as Super Bowl champions, and there's this much negativity around this football team. But that's what happens in Philadelphia, because the city is built different, and we just care about our football team a lot more than other fan bases across the NFL. But there's a lot of noise around this team right now. How can the Eagles put that noise to rest? How can they silence a lot of the chatter? By having a stellar defensive performance, but this offense bringing it and putting up a huge game as far as production. And I'll say this, a lot of people are worried about this Eagles team. The difference between the 2023 Eagles team that lost 6 of 7 to end the year and the 2025 Eagles team, which right now has some drama, the 2023 defense was coordinated by Sean Desai and Matt Patricia. The 2025 team is coordinated by Vic Fangio. And the defensive personnel is far superior to the 2023 team that was bringing guys in off the street, and they were old and worn down. This 2025 Eagles defense is elite. They're young, and they're so much better. So predict the score. Eagles, Cowboys, cannot wait for this one. I think we just put together the best preview that you'll find here on YouTube. I'm going to go Eagles 24-18. And it's going to be a step in the right direction for this Eagles offense. They score 3 touchdowns, which compared to the last 2 games, it's pretty damn good. This Eagles defense on the road, they hold this high-octane Cowboys offense to 18 points. Eagles cover the spread. They move to 9-2 on the year. They silence some of the noise, and they win by 6.